What if everything came with a free Star Wars audiobook from Audible, like at the cantina?
I'll take a half-cap spotchka, lightweight.
Here's your free audiobook download for Master and Apprentice from Audible.
Or getting your pod racer serviced.
My pod racer needs upgrades to the coupling and stabilizer.
And here's your free audiobook download for Resistance Reborn from Audible.
Life in the galaxy doesn't work that way, but there is one place you can go where you can get a free Star Wars audiobook from Audible, and that's utini.com/audible. Click the Audible logo and start your 30-day free trial, which includes a free audiobook download. So visit utini.com/audible and get your free Star Wars audiobook download today.
Hello, Marc Thompson, this is. The voice of Yoda I am, in many Star Wars audiobooks. Do or do not listen to Utini.
Welcome to the Living Force Podcast,
May the Force be with you.
a Utini production.
You want to buy some death sticks?
Episode 78, Interview with Marc Thompson, Volume 2.
Don't want to sell me death sticks.
I don't want to sell you death sticks.
You want to go home and rethink your life.
I want to go home and rethink my life.
On this episode, the Utini crew chats with the voice actor of Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising, Marc Thompson.
This is where the fun begins.
And now, here are your hosts, Eric Eilerson and Dr. Charles Henkel.
Hello and welcome to a very special edition of the Living Force Podcast, everyone. I am one of your hosts, Eric Eilerson, and joining me tonight is one of my doctor friends I haven't seen in years, it feels like, Dr. Charles Henkel. Hey, man.
Hello there. Yeah, the ICU has kept me away from the show, but I had to be here tonight for our very special guest.
Absolutely. I thought you were going to say I had to, save people's lives, but you're right. There are more important things. And that is...
Wait, no.
Well, another important thing is not Dr. Corey Helton. It is instead renowned Star Wars narrator himself, who is sitting right now in the Millennium Falcon on this Zoom call, Marc Thompson. Welcome.
Hey. How are you guys? Thanks for having me back.
Man, of course. Thank you so much for coming back. For those of you that may not know, that joined us a bit later, we talked to Marc on the show, a year and change ago?
It was episode 9 of our podcast. Yes. And this is going to be 80 or something?
78. This is 78.
Yeah.
So
okay, yeah.
All right, every 70 episodes then we'll keep it consistent. Well, and if you are listening to this and you live under a rock and have never listened to a Star Wars book, Marc is the narrator of how many audiobooks now, Marc? Star Wars wise,
I think the Star Wars books I'm up to 60, maybe 65. I forgot after a while, but I need to go back and count them.
That's it. Well, it's phenomenal, and again, people, if you have listened to a Star Wars book, it's more than likely Marc's done it, or at least done a voice. If you listen to some of the recent audio dramas, which we are very excited to talk about tonight. But Charles, do you want to just start us off on our list of Lucasfilm pre-approved questions?
Yes, of course. So I know we were chatting a little bit before we started the show, but Marc, tell us a little bit about how your last year has been. What's been going on?
Oh, just a little thing. It's been a little crazy because when when everything got shut down, I'm all freelance. So I was hit kind of hard by that financially just because all the studios shut down and all the jobs. I think people were thinking we'll just hunker down for a month or two and then we'll get back to normal.
Remember that.
Yeah. so it things really slowed down, and then eventually I think people got comfortable. I had to invest in some new equipment and things, but people got more comfortable with recording at home, and then I was able to start recording some cartoons and some books and stuff from home. Which is a whole adventure because I live in a 2-bedroom apartment with 2 kids and 2 dogs. So it's really hard to get things quiet in here.
Yeah, a few extra takes, I guess.
Yeah.
No, just ask Del Rey, hey, can Thrawn have a dog? Is barking okay?
Hear me out. You can write this in. Yeah.
Well, and it's funny because speaking of that, you did. I watched some of your panels you've had this year at near Comic-Con at home and things like that.
Yeah.
There's been a lot of that, And I watched a panel you were on with another friend of the show, Sarah Kuhn, and the Dr. Aphra audio drama team. And you mentioned how it was kind of recording at home. So for those of you listening that may not know, the entire Dr. Aphra team recorded that audio drama we all loved so much in home offices for the most part. So, Mark, what was it like recording that as opposed to the Dooku Jedi Lost project, which was like so cool because it was everyone together?
Right. Yeah, I mean that was, there were obviously pros and cons. Like I was bummed that we did not get to do Dr. Aphra in the studio, because one of the things I loved about Dooku was being able to be in a big room with all the actors in a semicircle, like playing off of each other. So, you know, I got to do scenes with you and Morton, and just like that just changes the dynamic of all the acting and everything. And you get inspired by each other's reactions, and the way he read it would influence how I would read the next thing, you know, because I wasn't expecting to hear that particular reading. And so it's just, and then there's just all the camaraderie and fun that goes along with you know, being in there. So I was really looking forward to that with this story, because, you know, it's such an iconic story, and Dr. Aphra is such an important character, and I was really looking forward to that. So I was bummed that we did not get to do it that way. But I think, you know, being able to, you know, roll out of bed and go in front of the microphone has its advantages.
For
and,
sure.
You know, and then when you're on lunch break, you have your whole refrigerator there, and you know, you can, like, you know, it's all. And then I told I don't know if you want me to tell it again, but I told the story at the New York or the Comic-Con at Home panel that just, you know, there was one day where I had to play, I think his name was Comodex Ton or something like that. Like it's a guy who's getting tortured by, you know, by 000, and like, so I'm like screaming at the top of my lungs, and, you know, my family has to be super quiet, but my wife is a therapist, and she's also having to work from home. So she's on a Zoom or on a teleconference call with a client and trying to help them, you know, and all the things they're going through. And all of a sudden, like, she's hearing like, ah! Ah! You know, like blood curdling thing. So at dinner, she was like, "What were you doing today?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" It's like, you know, like you were screaming. I was like, "Oh." She's like, "It happened right in the middle of my session." I was like, "Oh gosh, I'm so sorry." So I hope we didn't traumatize her client.
I gotta wonder how that goes on her end, where the client's like, you know, getting emotional, and she's like, "Okay, so my husband, you know, you keep talking. This is about you, but it's Star Wars. That's cool."
Right. Doing some shock therapy over here.
Yeah, therapy of a different sort, right? We're all connected. We all try to make it work. Awesome.
That's awesome. Well, you know, the fact that you guys all did it from home and you still put out such an awesome project, like, I don't know, it speaks towards the creativity of the team and the flexibility of the team. So, I mean, top marks for you guys. It was such an awesome audio drama. And and you were great as Vader in particular. So, I mean, is there something fun? Like, is there something special about getting to be Darth Vader? Like, what is it about that character that really just gets you excited?
Oh, well, I mean, you know, it's anytime you get to do any of the iconic, like, you know, kind of legendary characters that were in that original trilogy, it just is filled with nostalgia and responsibility and this sense of, like, you know, import, because it's like, don't mess this up, you know. So there's a lot of like that goes into it. And I think that, you know, there's just something about him being in total control and power, and like being able to intimidate someone just with that, you know, with breathing, you know, and like all that is just super fun. And it's you know, it's easy to kind of like play when you're doing a voice like Vader, because you really want to lean into that, like, you know, malevolence and just relish, and, you know, like and especially in the audio drama, because so much of his power, like, we don't get to see the suit, you know, everything, but that voice is so resonant and powerful that you know, you could kind of lean into that in the audio drama, and it works, I think. So like, so it's just super fun. And I just, you know, it's a huge honor to do it.
It is kind of cool. You know, you make a great point that Vader is one of those characters where no matter what you see of him, whether it's like the Rogue One silhouette on the wall, or it's just the breed, like, you only need one sense of Vader. No matter what it is, it's terrifying.
That's really cool. I love that.
I bet he smells scary too. Like we
Yeah,
gotta go all the way.
right.
You just know.
When they invent that, then we'll have that major smell-o-vision.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, bring smell-o-vision back. 2021. That's how we're gonna do it.
Yeah.
Now, speaking of the future of the world, my God, in Star Wars at least, do you think, based on like the success of Dooku and Aphra, that audio dramas are gonna become a little more prevalent? Because I know they've gotten them in the UK for many years, but it seems like the US market is finally starting to understand what makes these so fun.
I think so. Like, I don't know anything. I'm just basing it on the enthusiasm that everyone has had. But it seems like that's the direction it's going in. Because even when you look at like Audible and some of the things they're doing with like, you know, Sandman and some of these other productions.
Oh, yeah, right.
You know, it seems like I don't think people understood that there was a market for long form audio, you know, and that is something that people really do crave, you know, because for a long time I would always hear people about like we have to abridge it, we have to cut it down, we got to make it like we can't make it too long, we got to keep people's attention. And nowadays it seems like people want long podcasts and long, you know, you know, so I think there's a huge desire for it, and it seems like people have really received Dooku and Dr. Aphra well, so I imagine that would happen more, which I'm very excited about, because like I love both. I love being able to do kind of a one-person show and do a book on my own. That's has its own challenges and its own rewards, but I love like getting to work with other actors and it just adds another level of depth when you get to hear, you know, all the actors come in. It's just like there's so many different layers and colors that come in to the production when they do it that way. So I would, if it moved purely in that direction, I would be on board too, because I would just love to. I love the finished product. Like I listened to Aphra because I couldn't wait to hear what everyone else did, and I don't always do that with my books. So like, and it was I just was so drawn in, and it just I loved everyone's performances. There were several moments I was laughing out loud as I was walking my dog on the street, and it just, you know, I thought Emily just was amazing.
Oh my
and like,
God, yeah.
I feel like she is like Dr. Aphra now. Like I feel like she should, you know, be the one that plays her on screen, and like you know, like I feel like it was like her performance was so nuanced and so like got the brashness and the humor, but then the heartbreak and the stuff that's going below the surface. Like it was such a complex performance, and she was just so amazing, and it was really well done.
Yeah, and I think you make a great point too about all those long form narratives, because I think purely just because of the technology of the time we live in, people have more time to listen to things. Like you said, walking the dog, or like a lot of people working from home now, like are listening to longer podcasts and books, and like I mean, absolutely. I have earbuds in the entire day, basically just doing stuff. So I think that's a great point that we got to listen to something.
Yeah.
I think we all loved Aphra. I think we all thought, you know, the performances were fantastic. You know who else we love? We love Thrawn.
There he is.
So we got to talk about Thrawn a little bit. We're talking to essentially the voice of Thrawn in the audiobook world. So what's it been like to see fans get so excited about a character that first appeared like 30 years ago?
It's very humbling, and it's very exciting, and obviously I know that the reason he's so compelling is because of Timothy Zahn and just how skilled he is, and what a great writer he is, and what a beloved character he's created. And I'm really grateful I get to be a part of that legacy. And you know, I just recently somebody on Facebook invited me to like a Thrawn group on Facebook, you know? and I thought I understood how much people love Thrawn before, but like now in this group, like you see like custom shirts and mugs and pins and, you know, challenge coins. And it's like, wow, there are some deep fans of Thrawn out there that I had no idea.
It is wild. I mean, I think honestly, he's probably the number one character as far as like the EU and the canon books go that people latch onto more than any other, as far as, you know, people that didn't see him on screen until a couple of years ago.
Yeah,
it's incredible. And speaking of that too, can you tell us a little bit about kind of the evolution of your Thrawn voice? Because you voiced him first in audiobook format, and then Lars Mikkelsen also voiced him in Rebels. But it seems like your performances blend together super well. So like, how does that voice kind of evolve since you first did it to now?
Yeah. So like when we first did it, we recorded like a half a chapter, and my first instinct was to give him some sort of accent that was not British, because I was leaning into the xenophobia of the Empire, and I kind of wanted to kind of make him sound foreign to what most people in the Empire would be used to, to kind of play into that idea of like, who is this Chiss, this blue-skinned alien that's, and we did it for like half a chapter, but then Kevin very wisely said, you know what, I think with this accent, we're missing the element of his personality that is like Sherlock Holmes, and that, like that's such a big part of like, so I think we should go back to like a standard Brit to kind of lean into that. And so we went back and redid that. And then that kind of stuck when we were doing the 25th anniversary editions. And then, they kind of talked about legends, the old books being legends, and now that the new books were canon. And I kind of figured that was the last we'd see of Thrawn.
As did we.
Yeah. And then at Celebration, when they made that announcement, I was like, because I didn't know about that, and I was like, oh, I wonder if maybe I get to do this again. But honestly, I thought, well, probably not, because they're going to want to make a distinction between what Thrawn was in the Legends and what Thrawn will be moving forward. So, and I even because this was before we saw, I think I heard rumors that he was going to be in Rebels. So then I called my agent and I was like, try to get me on Rebels. Just I did it in the book, so maybe, hey, and I think they reached out, and at that point they had already recorded the episodes and they were well into, animating and stuff. So it's but I remember watching the first couple of episodes and hearing Lars and ooh, this is a really cool voice he's doing, and he has kind of a very interesting accent that's hard to pin down.
I mean, he was literally a villain on Sherlock, so you're getting the Holmes in there,
exactly. So then I was I'm sitting watching it with my kids, but he'll say Caligari or something like that, and I'm mimicking his voice, and my son was like, what are you doing? I was like, oh sorry, nothing
I'm working.
But then when the book came out, they were like, no, we want you to do it. And I was like, oh, wow. So I was surprised to do it. So then I very deliberately tried to emulate what Lars was doing, because I wanted to be consistent with what was happening on Rebels. And then I guess just over time, they do start to blend. And I think part of that is that when I was really trying to emulate Lars's version, it's so soft and so, kind of it's almost like a whisper sometimes, and that was proving to be really hard for the editors and the mixers, because the rest of the narration and characters are a lot louder, and it's hard to keep balancing the levels. So I think over time he slided a little bit back where I still try to have a lot of that as much as possible, but every once in a while Kevin will be like, louder too quiet, we can't hear you. So we have to kind of find that balance. So
nice.
Yeah. Well, speaking of kind of the older Thrawn, the newer Thrawn, we just got Thrawn Ascendancy, Chaos Rising recently, and we're kind of at the beginning of a whole new world, almost a whole new part of the galaxy, really. We've got, a slightly different Thrawn than we've seen before, in a different time period, and what was it like being able to go back to something that's so familiar to you, but yet so new as well?
Okay, well, to be 100% honest with you, when I first read it, I was really scared, because this was so ambitious in terms of world building, the amount of new characters, the different houses within the Chiss, and I was like, how am I gonna do this?
Game of Thrones, Star Wars, here we go.
So I was really intimidated by it, and I kind of felt overwhelmed at first. But I think once I got to know the characters a little bit better and kind of, give myself permission to try some things, we kind of, I think worked our way through it. And also there was the whole thing about like, because we recorded that one at home as well. So I was super nervous about that I would mess up something technical on my end. And like, so like there was a lot of fear going into that one. So the fact that people are enjoying it is like, whew,
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
it was really, I mean, it's a great story, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. But that initial, like, even when you just first see the drama persona, I'm like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? What's a merit adoptive and what's a trial born? And like what's gonna happen now? So like, it was just, I was really intimidated, but it's awesome, and I can't wait to see where it goes from here. So.
Oh man, I mean, you and all of us for sure. And on that fear, I gotta ask, this book famously, as I think Tom from Del Rey said on Twitter, has like over 40,000 apostrophes or something like that. And were there, on that note, were there any, like, because we got new planets, we got names, were any of them ones that you remember just taking like 100 takes of like, what is this word?
All the names, like Timothy Zahn's amazing, but like having to say the names and the apostrophes, and then like having to go, like when they switch to the core name versus the full name for all those characters, I'm like, wait, is this person the same as that? Oh, that's the same person. Okay, like like there's just don't, and like I have a real hard time with pronouncing some of those words, so like a lot of times it's like when we get to a sentence where there's like 3 or 4 of them, Kevin will he has the chart in front of him, and he'll say, Utro, Thalius, whatever.
Oh, good man.
And then I'm like, okay, go. And then I try to like run through the sentence and like hit them all. And like the third one was wrong. So like, but I think there's too many of them to single out one word. Like there's a lot of the house names were just like definitely causing me to trip up a lot.
Yeah. Well, I got to say,
actually, what's the guy's name? The space pilot guy.
Oh, the navigator dude.
Kilori.
Wally of Undagal or something like that.
Yeah.
Like,
it's like Kilori of Wandalan. Yeah.
Yes. Wandalan. I could not say that one. Yeah. That's the one.
Wandalan.
That's the one. Yeah. Oh gosh, it drove me crazy.
It's funny because I'm we're fortunate enough to get advanced copies from Del Rey to review, and I got to say, I'm reading through my digital because before the audiobook was out. I'm like, God, I wish I had Mark's voice to tell me how to think some of these words, because I was like, because once you hit a mental block, it's like, I don't know, Leoi. Yeah, right. That, like, I'm glad to know that it's not just us.
No, definitely not.
Yeah, and I mean, on that note, you've kind of touched on this a little bit already, but I mean, for the first time, we have a book that's pretty much all Chiss. I mean, for the most part. Did that require like a lot of vocal creativity on your part? Because it's every character not only has like their own voice, but has like a slightly different accent that you do as well. So how did you come up with like the voice pattern for the species as a whole? And then what led you to give like particular accents to different characters?
Yeah. Well, when we first did the I guess, I don't know what we're calling it now, but the new Thrawn trilogy, where we're kind of seeing Thrawn's introduction to the Empire. I think my first instinct was that everyone was gonna speak like, all Chiss would speak like Thrawn. And then in the first Thrawn book, we learned that like there was the only way Eli's able to communicate with Thrawn is because he speaks this trade language. So I was like, well then, the Chiss should probably sound different than what you would hear in the Empire. So then I made Aralani, with a very distinct accent. And I thought it was a one-off, and but then we come back and
never
Aralani's
again.
like
I'm done.
Yeah, yeah. And now now she has a crew of people. So then I tried to, like in that book, I tried to make most of the people sound similar to Aralani. But then I opened this book, and there's like not only there. Now I find out there's different houses and there's different families, and then I was like, and then one of the characters says bogus, and I was like, I feel like someone that says bogus has to have a more fun accent than what I was giving Aralani. I'm like, so then then there was like trialborns and merit adoptives. So you had some people that were part of families, but they kind of earned their way into that family instead of born. So then it was like the families weren't like the United Nations where, this is this country and that's that country. So it kind of evolved as I went. And like there was a loose structure where I tried to give different houses, maybe different accents to try to distinguish them. But then that kind of fell apart as the book went on because of like people that you find out have like entered the family through this trial process or, and then there were certain characters that I felt like required a certain type of voice because of the way they were being portrayed or just their personality type. So I don't know. I hope it all makes sense eventually and that people like it. But I tried to have some sort of a justification for the voices I chose, and hopefully it makes sense to the listeners.
I would definitely say it did, and I want to actually ask off of that, like just hearing you go through all those reasons is so fascinating and makes my head hurt a little bit. So I gotta wonder, do you have some sort of like highlighting system, or like are Thrawn's lines always in blue as Thurfy in yellow? Like so when you hit them, you can kind of just go in, because like keeping all that track on the page just seems like a whirlwind.
Right. When I first started out, I did it that way, but then there was one book where I did that, and then they said, "Oh, that's not the final version of the script. Here's the updated version." I was like, I spent all this time doing that. I was like, I'm not doing that again. Because there's always like third passes and fourth passes of stuff. So now what I do is I always have done this, but I record snippets of dialogue in my phone for each character. And then when we get to that character, if I don't remember what they sounded like, I'll just pick up my phone and listen for a couple seconds and then kind of go back in. And usually what happens is the first 2 days, it's a little more herky-jerky and starting and stopping and, listening. But then as I get going around, day 2 or day 3, I start to know the characters well enough that I can, for the most part, just kind of ping pong. And then every once in a while, like if a new person or an ancillary character comes up, I'll have to refer to the phone again. But
awesome. No, it seems like an awesome trick. And it's cool because obviously, like not only in Star Wars, but in all your career, you've done so many characters and so many voices, and some like obviously like they last for one project, some will come back for a few. But is there something kind of special about coming back to Thrawn in so many iterations? Because I mean, Tim Zahn in all his few interviews he's done about this book, they always ask him like, how is it writing Thrawn, and like coming back over and over. But you're kind of in that same boat.
Yeah. I mean, like it kind of it feels very special. Because I like I said, like I didn't realize how important he was to so many people, and how unique that character is. So I feel a huge honor to be a part of it. And then I kind of have become a fan of his over time,
Sure.
Like I was always a fan of Luke, Han, and Leia, but I've now kind of learned to love Thrawn, and I'm always more of a good guy than a bad guy. Like, so I always feel guilty when I like the bad guys, but like there's something about Thrawn where there's a nobility to him. And there's a like you almost get the sense that he's using the Empire more than the Empire's using him.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, especially in this book, I mean, the nobility shines through in Ascendancy.
Yeah. So it's this weird, and it's something that can only really happen in books, that you can't get to know a character this deeply, and except for maybe like a TV series. But like it's very rare to get to know the quote unquote antagonist. He's protagonist in his own books, but like to know the bad guys on such a deep level.
It's awesome. I love it.
Yeah.
So
it's really cool, and I can't wait to see, where this goes, and it seems like there's a big threat coming up, and it's going to be really fun.
Oh yeah, I think we're all wondering what exactly was going on at the end of that book and where it's going to go from here. But interestingly enough, you made that point. I don't even refer to Thrawn as a bad guy anymore. Like I totally recognize that he is, and that he serves that role, especially in the Legends trilogy and then in Rebels. But like he's kind of just awesome. Like he kind of just is a good guy too. I don't know. He's not that bad.
Yeah. No, totally. Yeah.
And maybe that's speaking, towards Timothy Zahn's skill as an author. We know he's one of the most lauded authors in the Star Wars world. Are there certain things about his writing style or just kind of the stories that he likes to tell that make it especially fun to record?
Well, yeah, because like I love how he tells the action moments and kind of like the naval battles and stuff. Because it's fun. Like I find myself as I'm reading it, like being like I'm totally able to follow what's happening. I'm totally able to picture it in my mind, and then I'm always like surprised, even though by now I should know all of Thrawn's tricks, and I should, like I've spent so much time with him, I should just expect what he's going to do. But it always kind of catches me off guard. I'm like, oh wow, like and he gets me every time. Like it's so like he just, I don't know where he comes up with some of the set pieces or the strategies that Thrawn uses, because he's this super nice guy when you meet him in person, and he's totally unassuming, but like he's like a brilliant military strategist, because it's like for him to write this stuff, he really gets it and he really understands it. It's like, wow, this is really cool.
Never get into a prank war with Tim Zahn. That's what you're saying.
Did you scope out this convention center, Tim? I love that. So we did hit this a little bit earlier, but I want to ask one more question about all the names, the pronunciation stuff in this book, in regards to Tim, because I know you're saying that when you and Kevin are working, he'll say like, here's a pronunciation for this. Do the pronunciations start with Zahn and then go through channels, or do you guys actually have a little bit of freedom on certain words to be like, well, we can kind of figure this out ourselves, or does it all go back to Zahn?
To be honest, I don't totally know, because I just get the pronunciation list in its finished form.
Oh, cool.
But so don't quote me on this, but
Sure.
my understanding is that Kevin reads the script and he pulls out any word that's not English.
God, that took a while on this one.
Yeah. And then he put on an Excel sheet, he puts down what he thinks it is or what he thinks it should be pronounced as. And then that gets sent to Lucasfilm, and I think it's Leland Chi, if he's still doing that. I think he either says yes or no, or actually this book appeared in this episode, or this word appeared in this episode of Clone Wars, and it's pronounced this way, or so he'll kind of give the final sign off, and he'll put changes from Lucasfilm if there's any changes, and then, but I don't know if Timothy Zahn's giving his pronunciations to Lucasfilm and Lucasfilm is approving them to Kevin, or if I don't know in where in that chain of command Timothy comes in, so I don't know.
Wow,
to be honest.
It's some kind of crazy email chain, that's for sure. But
yeah.
It's funny, that reminds me, I heard years ago, this has stuck with me, that there's someone in the Vatican whose job it is to put new technology words into Latin, because no one speaks.
No way.
Yeah, so someone has to decide what's computer in Latin, because it's not, because it's the official language of the Vatican still. So that's someone's job. So I assume that's kind of like what they're doing with Thrawn. Like,
yeah.
I have to decide. Okay, forevermore, that's what this word is.
Yeah.
And also, if that's not true, our listeners, don't correct me on it, because don't take this from me. It's 2020. I've lost so much.
Fact, I want it to be.
We have real life headcanon. Oh my gosh.
El Facebook, eh?
Yeah. Oh, yes. See? There it is. Check. Done.
So, Mark, the first time that we had you on the show, I have to go back to this. Again, it was like episode 9. It was like a year ago. One of my favorite just like random moments that we've had on the show. You revealed to us this collection of Yodas that you had. And you just you turned the camera around and it was just literally a sea of Yodas. And we were like taken aback. So I got to know, any new additions to that collection?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Hold on. Let's see. Okay. So I got this guy who's pretty cool. He's like the Disney, the toy box.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I really like him. Sorry, I don't know what should have rotated.
That's really
that's
cool.
great.
And then I was very lucky, and I guess it might still be on Amazon, but I got the Yoda Funko that was supposed to be at Celebration this year.
Oh, you're gonna make Eric's heart break by showing this.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Where he's
I
lifting
loved
the
it.
X-wing.
That's incredible.
And just the way the water is like kind of propping it up, and
that's
so, like,
gorgeous.
yeah, it's really amazing. Like, this is probably my new favorite thing.
Yeah.
That is sweet.
Man.
Yeah, so those are the new ones, I think.
Yeah.
I think you have a Baby Yoda bobblehead too. But...
I was wondering, there's got to be some Baby Yoda.
That's a whole another thing. Oh my god.
Oh yeah.
My goodness. I think since last time we talked, Baby Yoda didn't exist.
Oh, that's right.
Like,
yeah.
My gosh.
Yeah, I've got a Mando and a Baby Yoda Funko, and I just got, don't tell my wife. I just got a fig pin Mando. I pre-ordered the fig pin Mando and child sipping soup.
Awesome.
And then and then I'm like, so yeah, and then my dad 3D printed me a Yoda in the hover pram.
What?
Which I have, so it's really cool. So yeah,
that's awesome.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. So
gosh,
I guess 3D printers are just things that people have. George Mann, I'm sure you're familiar with George Mann. We talked to him a few weeks ago, and he was just 3D printing stuff behind him like the whole time. That's incredible.
Yeah, well, and also on the Yoda thing, I gotta follow up. We got the news of Yoda being in the High Republic now. Is this is this a whole new line of Yodas to get now? Like cool young Yoda?
I mean, and I like his goldish robe.
Oh yeah,
like
it's like a very Snoke robe, a little bit.
Yeah. It looks really cool. I'm so happy that he exists in that era.
Yeah, and it is that thing. Like I think we were all like, okay, we were all doing the timeline math, and like he makes sense, but like, is he gonna be? And I'm glad they finally said, okay, yes, Yoda's in it. Okay,
yeah.
Moving on. We can all. Yeah. Oh, wonderful. Well, on that note, before we get you out of here, I wanted to ask about the moment in the world, right? Like we said at the top, it has been a very wild year. One that I'm sure no one is going to forget for a number of reasons. As we all get older, we'll remember 2020 for many things. But as far as Star Wars history goes, I would argue it's similarly memorable. I mean, we're at the brink of so many new things from Mandalorian, from High Republic, to the audio drama genre, to everything coming out. What excites you the most about this current moment in Star Wars history?
Ooh, that's a great question. Let me think. I mean, the thing that I'm loving the most is Mandalorian. Like, I feel like I was really surprised because the way, I guess, going into it, my expectation is that this was going to be this dark, edgy, brutal show of a bounty hunter who doesn't care about anybody and he's just in it for the money, and and to me that didn't really feel like Star Wars. I know bounty hunters are a part of Star Wars, but to see a whole show focused on them, I was like obviously going to watch it, but I wasn't like, I don't think I would have gotten as excited about it as I thought I would be by the Skywalker saga or anything like that.
Right.
But then, like, from episode 1, it's just like there's so much heart in that show.
Yeah.
And there's so much like great stuff. And then I got my wish and I got a Jedi, or not a Jedi, but a Force user. And so it's like, I just love that show so much. And I my only complaint is they need to be longer and they need to have more.
Right. It's like, that's it. I mean, I guess the time went, and I mean, hey, possibly more Force users season 2. I mean, he's got to find these. I love that he calls them sorcerers and wizards. I'm like, oh.
Yes. Yeah.
like anytime Lucas says a laser sword, I'm like, oh, yes. It's weird. We can acknowledge the weirdness.
Right.
Oh, perfect. Well,
like I that's what I'm loving the most now, but I'm really excited about High Republic because that's like all Jedi, and that's like Jedi are my favorite part of Star Wars. So like I can't wait for that. And I just like the idea, like you were talking earlier about the potential of the audio dramas becoming more prevalent, and I just and with Disney Plus and the success of Mandalorian, like the chance for the Obi-Wan show and other shows. I just feel like it's such a great, this is going to sound so shallow given everything we're going through, but there's so much to look forward to. Like there's so many great things, like the coming out that I don't know if I can narrow it down. It's just the fact that there's a potential for so much storytelling in the Star Wars universe is just exciting, period. So I don't know, like it's really cool.
It is a great time. I mean, the fact that we can say the phrase potential High Republic audio drama is like, it's pretty cool, I mean, who knows?
Right.
But every year there's gonna be something. It's not slowing down, that's for sure. Well,
right. Yeah.
Well, and on that, again, not try to pry out anything, but what do you have coming up that you can talk about that people can find out? Where can they find you? All that good stuff.
Sure. I don't know. There is something coming that I have recorded, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say it yet. And last time or not with you guys, but I got in trouble. Not in trouble, but I said something I shouldn't have said on a podcast recently. So
great. We will not put
something is coming.
You are still employed. Great. All right.
Yes.
Can confirm.
It's really cool. Yeah, it's really, really cool.
Excellent.
If people want to know when I am doing something and I'm allowed to talk about it, I'm Captain Ehud on Twitter and Captain Ehud on Instagram. I'm Marc Thompson on Facebook, and that's everything, right? Yeah. Oh, and I have a website, markthompson.net.
Fantastic. And of course, everyone, if you're listening and you want more of Marc's work, head over to utini.com/audible, get that free credit, grab Ascendancy, or grab any of the 60-plus audiobooks Marc's done. There are plenty to do. And come on, we don't have another book coming until November. You got time. But with that, Marc, as always, it's such a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much for making the time, and I'm sure we'll talk more about secret projects again in the future.
Yeah, I'd love to.
All right,
thanks guys.
Thanks.
There is no hatred. There is joy. There is no division. There is union. There is no apathy. There is passion. There is no gatekeeping. There is community. This is the Utini Star Wars Fan Code. Embrace it, live by it, and above all, trust in the living force. That's all for this week. Join our community and surround yourself with like-minded fans by visiting us online at utini.com. Until next time, may the force be with you.